connect you with experienced attorneys who can answer your questions and guide you through the process. From visas to green cards, asylum to citizenship, we help you find the right legal expertise so you can move forward with confidence. ImmigrationQuestion.com. Real news, real answers, real quick. Stay tuned. We go live in 30 seconds.
Hello and welcome today's live webinar brought to you by immigrationquestion.com, your trusted source for immigration news, expert legal insight, and real-time conversations with a licensed immigration attorney. My name is Ali, and I'll be your host for today's critical session, Humanitarian Visas and Relief for Protection from Deportation. For many immigrants, the fear of deportation brings uncertainty and emotional strain. Family live with daily anxiety of separation, while individuals often face challenge of proving what they deserve to stay in the United States. Fortunately, humanitarian visas and relief programs exist to offer protection for those facing extraordinary circumstances, whether survivors of violence, victims of trafficking, or individuals fleeing persecution and danger. And that's precisely what we'll be addressing today, the protections available, who may qualify, and the practical steps to seek safety and stability under the U.S. immigration law. We are honored today to be joined by attorney Nkechi Gillman, founder of Gillman Immigration in St. Paul, Minnesota, with years of experience representing families, asylum seekers, and vulnerable individuals. Attorney Nkechi Gillman is widely respected for her compassionate advocacy and practical guidance. She has built her career helping clients navigate complex humanitarian and family-based immigration cases with empathy, precision, and a deep commitment to keep families together. Welcome, Attorney Gillman. We are thrilled to have you to join us today.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. It's certainly an honor, privilege to be able to share my knowledge and my experience with immigration to your viewers and your platform. I've practiced immigration law for about 15 years, and my practice has remained primarily within family-based immigration and humanitarian. So for the last 15 years, I've seen all kinds of different types of cases for the victims of domestic violence, trafficking victims, and victims of crime, and of course, the family-based section of immigration law. So I'm happy to answer questions, clarify doubts, and most importantly, like the myth busting, right? Because there's a lot of like, well, I heard, well, someone said, and no.
That's a good attorney. So before we begin, a quick reminder for everyone, immigrationquestion.com is a platform that connects users with licensed immigration attorneys. We are not a law firm. We are not affiliated with AILA or USCIS. All legal services are provided independently by our attorneys, like Attorney Nkechi right here in our network. So let's dive in. Attorney Gillman, to begin, can you walk us through the most common humanitarian visa option available today, such as asylum, U visas, T visas, and TPS, and explain how they differ in terms of eligibility and benefits?
Absolutely. So I'll start with I think the most common, the one that everyone knows even before they get here, is asylum. Like I even remember as a young girl, and not living in the United States, asylum, everyone knows about asylum. So with asylum, you have to file asylum once you enter the United States. And once you enter the United States, you have a year from entry to the deadline to present your claim of a well-founded fear of persecution if you were to return to your home country. So it's a well-founded fear of past persecution or future persecution. And it has to be based on like a very unique trait or characteristic to you, right? So your race, your religion, your gender, your sexuality, your political opinion, your particular social group. Asylum is very, very heavily adjudicated based on your statement. Your statement has to be very detailed. It has to be very thorough, and it has to be credible, because all they have is your words, right? Very few times do these clients even have any kind of evidence. So that's that. So that's asylum. You have to file it within a year. There are two exceptions. If you can't file within 1 year, either changed circumstances or exceptional circumstances. The second widely known, I would say, is the U visa. For the U visa, you have to be a victim of a crime. So they're very deep. The statute has like the qualifying crimes: aggravated assault, domestic violence, assault. It's very, very clear the crimes that qualify under a U visa. That's a two-part process. First, the crime has to be certified, so you need a police report, so you have to report the crime. And then after that, you have 6 months to actually file the U visa. Again, with the U visa, we have to show that, you've been harmed emotionally, psychologically. Returning back to your home country would be to your detriment, and also that you've assisted in the investigation of this crime. So that's very, very critical, and you have to have good moral character. So that's the U visa. So I'll just briefly discuss TPS. TPS is very temporary. TPS is for if you have something going on in your home country, natural disaster, political strife, and it is typically awarded by the sitting government. I mean, the United States, whatever administration is in office at the time, they designate TPS to certain countries, and it after the natural disaster or the political strife is over, it typically reverts to it being terminated. VAWA it's not as well known as it should be, but it is the Violence Against Women Act, and that name is it's confusing. It's a misnomer because it actually applies not only to women who suffer domestic violence, it also applies to men. And when I say domestic violence, it's not just domestic violence. I think everyone, when you think domestic violence, you think physical harm. But under this protection and this law, it is emotional abuse, it is psychological abuse, it is verbal, it is control, it is threats of deportation, it is manipulation, it's all these things. Again, another relief where we have to show you are either married to a US citizen or a green card holder. And even if you're divorced, your divorce has not been more than 2 years. This is also a path to green card. You also get a work permit. And then finally, the T visa, also very, very underutilized. Not a lot of people know about it. It's the trafficking visa. The T visa is for immigrants who suffered labor abuse or sex trafficking. Labor abuse looks like, being hired for a position, being told, oh, you're going to work as a front desk receptionist, and we're going to pay you $12 an hour, and you're going to work 40 hours a week. Then you start working. You're a receptionist, you're a housekeeper, you're a cook, you're doing all these additional things. You're not getting $12 an hour. You are working overtime. There's no time and a half. And then there's all this talk about your status. You should be grateful. So it's a lot of coercion. It's a lot of fraud. And it's a lot of manipulation to get labor at a lot cheaper and cost than they would have to pay someone who was documented. So those, I would say, are the principal humanitarian relief that a lot of people pursue.
Oh, thank you for that insight, attorney. So we have another question from things that are going on. So many people are already in deportation proceedings. They wonder if there is still hope. From your experience, Attorney Gillman, which forms of humanitarian relief tend to offer the strongest protection against removal, and what key factors often determine a successful outcome?
Yeah. So all of these that I mentioned, just a few minutes ago, are all defenses to deportation. I will tell you that the asylum approval rate, and with everything happening in this administration, is not as strong anymore, because we're seeing circumstances where asylum applications are being terminated before they even get their day in court. So asylum, I would say, is a little weaker. The T visa actually comes with a really, really strong protection, because when you apply for a T visa, starting last August, you can now get something called a bona fide determination. So bona fide determination means they've reviewed your T application, they've reviewed your declaration, and you've also passed national security screening. When those two things align, you get a work permit in a C14 category, and you're able to, that can stop deportation, that bona fide determination. All right. So that's that. So I would say right now the T visa, if you can get past and get the bona fide, even if you're in immigration court, that gives you protection. VAWA also, it also comes with a bona fide determination. And when it comes to court and how you're able to, appeal to the judge, to administratively close the matter, it really depends. It really varies, right? You may appear in front of one judge who you say, okay, my client has a VAWA case. We have a receipt notice. We have a bona fide determination. Please pause deportation. And the judge goes, you know what? Okay. And then you may have another judge that goes, no, we're not pausing deportation proceedings. Show me an approval notice. So it really varies. So I would say all those forms of relief all have a shot, but I would say T visa is probably the highest, and then VAWA, and then I would say asylum at this point is probably the least likely, depending on the case.
Oh, I see. So applying for humanitarian relief can sometimes overlap with other immigration goals. How might applying for protections like asylum or U visas affect a person's ability to seek permanent residency or citizenship in the United States later?
Yeah. So asylum is a path to a green card. You can get legal permanent residency if your asylum is approved, right? And then after 1 year, you can file your application for your green card. Same thing with a U visa. U visa is valid for 4. And after the 3rd year, you can file your green card application. So, they're all a path to permanent legal step, because a U visa is actually a non-immigrant visa. The idea is that you have protection in the United States and you're here to assist with the investigation. And then after you've maintained your physical presence and assisted, you can get a green card. So they are all a path to legal step. The most important thing is, making sure you're screened properly for these forms of relief, especially asylum, because I think a lot of immigrants are taken advantage of. You have all these form preparers and notarios that just submit really frivolous claims. They're not strong. And before you get your day in court, it's getting terminated because the adjudicator goes, there's nothing here, you should never file this, and you're done. So you've lost your chance and your opportunity.
Oh, I see. So the fourth question is evidence and documentation, as you said, they play a critical role in humanitarian cases. Attorney Gilman, what are some of the most effective strategies for building a strong case, especially when an applicant's story involves trauma or limited access to official records?
Absolutely. This is what I've done for 15 years. So I'll speak mostly on T's and VAWAs. I'll start with VAWA. So again, with VAWA, first of all, the standard of proof is something called any credible evidence. And that's in the statute. It means you can present whatever you have, as long as it's credible. The officer has to make a decision based on what you present. So the strongest piece of evidence in a VAWA case is your declaration, like I said, because we understand, if you're trauma informed, you know that a lot of victims sometimes are fleeing their abusers in the middle of the night without any documents, nothing. Because with VAWA, we need to present evidence like proof of your abuser status. So, that would be like your abuser's passport or birth certificate or naturalization certificate. Well, how are you going to get those safely, right? So we've had situations where we didn't have that, and we had to get creative, like pictures of their driver's license and, searching voters' records. So there's a lot of creativity that goes into it. But ultimately, if you don't have a lot of proof of your relationship, which is also another requirement of VAWA, we explain that in the declaration. I don't have a lease because I asked to be put on the lease 5 times on these days, and I was told no. I am not on any of the bank accounts because I was told that I was fiscally and financially irresponsible, and I was told that I did not deserve access. I don't have any pictures together because she never wanted to take pictures with me. She said I was ugly. I mean, these are the ways that we make up for missing evidence, and we put it on the declaration. And we tell our clients, if you happen to have any friends or family members who understood or were aware of what you were going through, let them also give us a statement. So that's for VAWA. When it comes to T visa, it's rare that we even have, other than the declaration, we rarely have anything else. Maybe a few text messages here and there from an employer threatening to call ICE or something like that, but it's really just a declaration. That's it. their statement. That's why it's so important that we have that. And also, I would note, with the humanitarian cases that are really declaration and statement heavy, if our clients had previously filed anything before where they had to give a statement, we must non-negotiable review that statement, because now we have to make sure everything you said before is consistent with what you're saying now. You couldn't have said, oh, I was born in country X, and then in your second one you're saying you were born in a different country. Your credibility is shot, and then your case starts to go downhill.
Yeah, so I think it's better to be very, very transparent, and yeah, you just have to tell everything, the truth. And also, last question is, policy shifts can have significant effects on humanitarian protections. Here, there have been recent policy changes under the Trump administration that are reshaping how humanitarian visas are processed. And what should applicants expect as we move further into 2025?
So it's really hard to predict, right? What's coming. As immigration attorneys, we're constantly in the state of when's the next shoe gonna drop and what's coming. And it's typically on Fridays. But what I would say is we can only control what we can control. And right now, if you have a case that you are eligible for, and we know that that relief is still available, you need to pursue it, and pursue it aggressively. I hope that things settle down, and the relief that immigrants currently have are not infringed upon any further. That's what my hope is, but the truth is I do not know. What I can tell you is, in this moment, you can still file asylum if you're in the United States. It's been shut off at the border. You can still file for a VAWA if you are married to a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, or even if you're divorced. Also, parents, if you are a parent and you have a citizen, a child 21 or older who's abusive, their children who abuse their parents, you can also file for a VAWA. And another very, very important thing that a lot of people do not know, these humanitarian forms of relief, they waive unlawful entry. So it doesn't matter if you cross the border. And the TVs in particular will waive a permanent bar, which starts to get, it's a little bit more complex immigration analysis, which I'll leave out of this discussion, but it starts to, if you have multiple entries and exits and you've stayed more than a year and gone back, and deportations, the T visa waives that. It's that and the U visa waive the permanent bar and any false claim to U.S. citizenship. So those are also very, very powerful.
Right. So, to everyone tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and beyond, thank you for joining us today. Whether you're an attorney, a student, or a professional seeking clarity on EB1A, we are glad to have you with us. If this is your first time here, welcome to immigrationquestion.com. It's a trusted meeting place where immigrants and attorneys connect. You can ask immigration questions for free in any language and get matched with a licensed attorney for guidance. Many of you may also qualify for a free confidential consultation. We are also proud to share that immigrationquestion.com is now a BBB accredited business, reflecting our commitment to honesty, transparency, and serving immigrant communities with integrity. Attorney Gillman, with your years of experience, what are your thoughts on how platforms like immigrationquestion.com are helping immigrants and attorneys connect more effectively, especially in accessing help for issues like asylum and other humanitarian visas options?
Well, I would say first, it is so important, and thank you for bringing experienced professionals on here to answer the questions. I think as an attorney with my experience, I sit on the side where I'm constantly fixing problems caused by non-attorneys and sometimes attorneys that are not well versed, and the perception is, oh, immigration is just forms. Oh, it's easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. Are there people that attempt it on their own and they get by fine? Yes. But the problem is when it doesn't work, the consequences are so harsh. I mean, so harsh. And so you have to ask yourself, is this worth the risk? And so for a platform like this, bringing, professionals like me, and I only speak on the area that I work on. Like, don't ask me about H-1B. I don't do that. Don't ask me about L-1. I don't do that. I focus on very specific areas. And because I've done them for so long, I do them very well. So thank you. And also specifically because the VAWAs, the Ts, VAWAs and Ts are not as well known. They're not. They're not at all. And more platforms need to highlight those forms of relief, because there are so many people that are just rushing to asylum, asylum, and they could easily file for a T visa, which is a lot faster to process.
Oh, thank you for that insight, Attorney Gilman. Thank you for your kind words. We really do appreciate. So we are committed to making your immigration help easily accessible while helping immigration attorneys like yourself scale their practices. Before we move into the live Q&A, one final question for me, and I think this is very important. Many families watching today include both US citizens and undocumented members. What humanitarian options should mixed status family consider to protect their loved ones and maintain family unity in the face of possible deportation?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what we do, because we got a lot of mixed status families, because the kids are US citizens and one of the spouses is also documented and then one of them is not. I always screen everyone for a T visa, everyone, because this is what I say. If you are an immigrant in the United States and you're undocumented, you very likely have worked somewhere. You've worked. You have to feed your family, right? Are there people who have had amazing companies that they worked for, even though they were vulnerable and undocumented? Absolutely. But majority of the times when we start to probe and ask questions, there has been labor violations. There has been exploitations. There have been people, working 70, 80 hours a week, no time and a half, working under very dangerous conditions, being threatened with immigration. We're going to call immigration on you. You don't have papers, or being told, oh, you don't get time and a half because you don't pay your taxes. Well, listen, if you don't want to pay, if they're not, legal enough to get paid time and a half, then why are you hiring them, right? And so we screen, I would say, any and every, if you've ever worked in this country, let's speak to you and screen. Let's at least not miss that opportunity. T visa, again, is very underutilized. And then also, VAWA possibly, maybe, you were married to someone before and now, you're with a different partner, not married, but maybe you have a VAWA case. So it's just screen. And then the U visa also. All these humanitarian forms of relief are all on the table, and we screen for all of them.
Oh, see, thank you for that insight. So, if you're joining us, we've been having an insightful conversation with Attorney Nkechi Gillman on the topic, humanitarian visas and relief to protect from deportation. So, we're now moving into our live Q&A segment. So, this is your chance to ask your own questions. Drop them in the chat. Call us live at 516-703-3483, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible. So here we go. We have one and have one.
Are you going to read the questions? Let me see this. Writing it all on some on my phone. I don't know if you can read it out.
Sorry, have interview for adjustment of status through marriage next 3 weeks. Should I upload documents, evidence 3 to 5 days before the interview, even though they didn't ask, or just take everything in the interview?
I would just take it to the interview. Now, of course, I don't. And let me just, before I even start asking questions, not legal advice. I don't know your case. I'm just giving you very, very general. So I don't know what additional documents that you're looking to upload. Hopefully it's not anything that was critical and required initially, but the fact that you've been scheduled for an interview, that's good. I would take those documents to the interview. That's what I would do. That's what I would do for my client.
All right. Okay, next question. From Amina T. Who can apply for humanitarian relief?
Anyone can apply for humanitarian relief. It would depend on your family, right? So obviously, if you were never married to a U.S. citizen or green card holder, or didn't have a U.S. citizen child or older, you wouldn't be eligible for VAWA, okay? Because it requires a qualifying relationship with either a U.S. citizen or green card holder. But T visas and U visas, they don't have any. You don't have to have any relationship with a U.S. citizen or green card holder.
second question is question from Dundi Pereira. How long will humanitarian visa take to get?
It depends. So with a T visa, for example, our quickest was 10 months. It was approved in 10 months. And so far, the longest has been about 18 months. Of course, in this administration, everything's taking longer, so it really varies. With VAWA, traditionally, it's been about 2 to 2.5 years. But again, I remind everyone that we are in a season where the processing times are so fluid, so it's really hard to predict. But this is what I always say. Don't worry about how long it's going to take. It doesn't matter. If you're eligible, go ahead and file. The time will pass. It will. So just do it.
Next question is question from Fathia Abdul Salam. Is it okay to work as I wait for humanitarian relief?
Is it okay? So you cannot, the immigration laws say you cannot work on it. Okay? You have legal authorization to work. That being said, we had consultations where our clients like, oh, I didn't know I worked, 2 years ago without papers. I'm not doing it anymore. Is it okay? And it doesn't affect the outcome of their case. So that's what I will tell you. Like if you happen to have worked unauthorized, it's not going to affect you getting the humanitarian relief.
Okay, then next question. What will happen if my asylum case gets denied?
So for some cases denial, you can appeal. It would depend on why it was denied, but you have to appeal. There's a very short window to appeal. You can file your appeal.
Next question. Can I travel outside America for a short trip with humanitarian visa?
So typically, once the visa is approved, like we have T visa clients that have a travel document and they can travel out of the United States. I always say just wait until you get the green card. But you need if you are to travel, you would need a travel card.
Okay, last question. Should I add my family in my humanitarian application?
Yes. So family members also qualify. Spouses or derivatives and children under 21 married are also going to be eligible to be added to your humanitarian relief. And in some circumstances, if the victim is 18 or younger, the parents can be a part of the application. The siblings can be part of the application.
Okay. I think that's our last question for today. Thank you so much, Attorney Gilman, for sharing your expertise and compassion with us today. Your explanation of humanitarian relief options, and we hope that we provide for families facing deportation has been both enlightening and empowering. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us. And we hope today's discussion gave you a clarity, courage to file that case, and confidence to take the next step in protecting yourself or your loved one. Remember, you can always visit immigrationquestion.com to ask your immigration questions for free and connect directly with a licensed immigration attorney. You might get a consultation with our attorney, Kiki. And many of you may also qualify for a free initial consultation. And if you like to revisit today's session or share it with someone in need, the full replay will be available soon on Spotify. Just search Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com and join us again on Friday for another timely, impactful discussion. Once again, thank you, Attorney Kiki Gilman, and thank you, everyone, for watching. Until next time, stay informed, stay protected, and stay encouraged.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.